Patrick Brown, quite a bombshell thrown into your leadership contention race last night. When did you first hear that this was happening, and how did you hear it?
So we started to get media inquiries that there was going to be a discussion on disqualification at Leoc last night. There was an emergency meeting called.
They did not tell you in advance? You heard
no,
from media?
They had asked some very odd and bizarre questions, but this was out of left field, and frankly, it's very disappointing because we were in a position to win this leadership. We had signed up over 150,000 Canadians, many from diverse communities in areas where the party needs to grow, and I think we made many people in the party nervous because we were challenging some of the traditional positions of the party, some of the areas that I believe the party is on the wrong side of history.
Give me an example.
Well, very clearly, I started this campaign saying that the Conservative Party was on the wrong side of Bill 21, that we need to stand for religious freedom, and whether you wear a turban, a hijab, or any article of faith, no one should ever lose their job. I've been very clear that I support women's reproductive rights, that I support marriage equality, that I celebrate pride because love is love is love. I've taken a very strong position against Islamophobia because hate against any faith is fundamentally wrong. And my positions that I believe in to my core also contributed to the groundswell of support that we had in membership sales. The reality is 150,000 new members is an astonishing number. In the last leadership, Aaron O'Toole was successful by signing 20,000 members up.
And how many does Pierre Poilievre have?
Well, that's the thing. Clearly, he doesn't have as many as he says he does.
So are you alleging that you have challenged the old conservative guard and that they object? Are you alleging racism, misogyny, homophobia here?
So I'm not alleging anything at this point.
But you are saying you're challenging the status quo.
I am challenging the status quo of the party.
So in essence, are you not alleging that they're the old guard? You're ruffling feathers in terms of your stance on abortion, pride, immigration?
Well, I think it's very clear that I'm a more progressive, inclusive candidate, and there's some in the party establishment that may be upset about that. But what I would say in terms of Pierre Poilievre, I've called him out, and some people in the party don't like that. I've called him out for his extreme positions, the association with people like Pat King, who has a history of intolerance. This is the party of John A. Macdonald and John Diefenbaker, who wrote the Bill of Rights, Brian Rooney, who challenged apartheid in South Africa. I don't want the party to be a pale imitation of the Republican Party. And so this leadership was very much a battle for the soul of the party. And it's unfortunate that they're removing this option away from party members. And in terms of Pierre Poilievre and whatever numbers he's claiming, he's been running televised attack ads in the GTA on the hour, and you don't run attack ads in an internal party leadership on television unless you're nervous about your own position. And so obviously we made a lot of people in the party nervous, and it's unfortunate that they would have to circumvent the vote of the membership. Ultimately, this should have been up to the membership.
Are you saying you were set up? Like, what has happened here? What are the allegations and your response to them? Well,
there is no information. That's the bewildering part. There's an anonymous allegation that someone was paid by a corporation while working on our campaign. We've asked for the name. No name was provided. We've offered to research it and said if anyone was working on the campaign during hours that they were supposed to be working for some company, that we would compensate that company, but we had no idea what the party was talking about. So it's difficult to respond to a phantom. So essentially, we've been disqualified on a phantom allegation that we have no information that would even enable us to refute it.
Who do you think could potentially be behind this?
Well, it's very clear. Pierre Poilievre supporters on Leoc were the ones behind this. And if Pierre Poilievre was so confident in his campaign, he wouldn't have to resort to this. What's wrong with giving the choice to the membership?
So you're saying the people who control this race are Pierre Poilievre supporters?
This maneuver late at night by the party was clearly orchestrated by Pierre Poilievre supporters, and it's disappointing because a spirited leadership campaign where you debate ideas, where you challenge each other, is a good thing for a party. When you remove democracy, it's not healthy for a party.
This isn't the first time you've run afoul and claimed that people were conspiring against you. I was there the night that you left Queen's Park. So what's going on here?
Well, and I think I've certainly shown that I'm a fighter, and just like I fought back 4 years ago successfully, I'm not going to take this line down. I believe this is a blemish on the Conservative Party, and the members of the party deserve better. And frankly, the 150,000 new Canadians that I brought into the party, they've been disenfranchised, and so I'm going to speak up on their behalf.
But provincial Conservatives turned their back on you some 4 odd years ago, almost 5 years ago, and now it seems you have federal Conservatives doing the same. Why is that?
Well, I don't think there's any correlation between the two. I was actively campaigning for the provincial Conservatives in the recent provincial election, and
are you saying this is just bad luck? Like what? Really?
Well, I clearly I was challenging the party establishment, and for many, they've controlled this private club for a long time, and the fact there was someone challenging that control with a real shot at winning made many people nervous.
Provincially and federally? Like 4 years ago as well as today?
No, very different. 4 years ago it was based on false allegations, and obviously I stepped aside to clear my name, which I did.
But the party didn't back you then? Well,
I don't think anyone, when there's false allegations, it's sort of shocked everyone. And in that case, I stepped aside to clear my name. There was many in the party that backed me. There was many that were glad that I stepped aside to deal with it in the courts, as I did. But what happened right here is absurd. To not allow an election within the party is something you'd see in a dictatorship, not in a democratic political party.
What are your options now?
We're going to examine our options. We're going to be speaking to legal counsel and to see what options exist. I don't like the fact that 150,000 Canadians, many for the first time who joined the Conservative Party, are being disenfranchised. Their vote is being disenfranchised. If Pierre Poilievre is to win this leadership, it's better for him to win a leadership that is fair. You don't have to have this type of intervention. Having a fair election is critical not only to democracy in Canada, but it's critical to democracy in the party.
How far are you willing to go to fight this, and will it internally blow up the Conservative Party?
Well, I'm going to consult our legal options and make a decision. What I would say is I'm disappointed, and what has happened is wrong. It's a slap in the face to party members. And the only person who's celebrating today, aside from Pierre Poilievre, is Justin Trudeau.
Well, it does change the dynamic of the leadership race, who the potential Conservative leader will be, and who would run against the Liberals. And if the Conservative Party is left in disarray from this, it is handing Justin Trudeau potentially another victory.
Yeah, with myself in the race and Jean Charest in the race, there was no path for Pierre Poilievre. Based on our numbers in Ontario, Jean Charest's numbers in Quebec, there was no path for Pierre Poilievre, and that's what made his supporters very nervous. You saw an article that was out in Post Media, Brian Lilly, just yesterday, that clearly articulated that Pierre was in trouble. And so I think they resorted to these lengths because they were determined to win this, regardless if it meant on trampling a democracy in the party. And the reality is, Justin Trudeau is celebrating today, because if he can have Pierre Poilievre as an opponent who has campaigned against vaccines for children like polio and smallpox and embraced economic policy on Bitcoin at a time when Bitcoin has collapsed in prices, this is a gift to the Liberal Party, and it's unfortunate. It didn't have to be this way. We could have had a free and fair election in our party.
Let's go back to your options. My understanding is, under the party rules, you really don't have much of a leg to stand on here, other than potentially a referendum after this is all done. Is that something you're even considering? Is that an option for you?
So we're going to look at our options. We haven't got to that point where we are going to be meeting with legal counsel to see what options are available.
But a referendum is one, is it not?
I would say there is a precedent in the party that there's a precedent set in a previous leadership that a party doesn't have to be democratic. It is a private club, and so the legal threshold to challenge a decision of the party is more difficult. But we're going to look at everything.
But is a referendum one possibility, and is it something you would trigger?
Listen, we're going to look at all options on the table. We haven't made any decisions yet.
Okay. How far are you willing to go to fight this?
Well, I think it's premature. We need to look what the options are, what the how realistic those legal paths are. But I am going to speak. I'm not going to shy away from standing up for the 150,000 Canadians who I signed up to vote in this party who have now been disenfranchised.
If you can't pursue this further, will you stay on as mayor and run for mayor in October here in Brampton?
Well, this has all happened literally in the last 12 hours. I took an early morning flight home today from New Brunswick, so that's the discussion I'll have with friends and family. But it's certainly not a decision I'm going to make today.
How is Patrick Brown this morning? What's going through your head right now?
Well, listen, disappointed because we put so much effort into changing the Conservative Party. I didn't want to see the same old Conservative Party that would win the popular vote but lose the general election. I thought Canadians deserved a real Conservative alternative, premised on a Conservative Party that says clearly it doesn't matter who you love, where you're born, the color of your skin, what God you worship. Everyone was going to be welcome in our party. And I'm disappointed that we're being robbed of that opportunity to build a modern, inclusive Conservative Party. But it's great to be back home in Brampton. I've been on the road for a number of days, and so to see my kids this morning and my son Theodore run up to me and give me a big hug, there's no greater feeling than seeing the people that you care about most.
What do you see as the future of the Conservative Party? I mean, ever since Stephen Harper, we've seen them kind of destroy themselves from within. Was Stephen Harper the only one that could keep this party together and the multiple factions of it together?
Well, Stephen Harper did a strong job of keeping the party together. My worry is if the party rigs this for Pierre Poilievre, that you're going to see the party face an electoral train wreck. I remember 2014 when the Provincial Conservative Party had a certain win. There was the gas plant scandal. The Liberals were very unpopular, but they took an extreme Conservative message and lost a third of caucus. Pierre is that times 10. He's taking a position that is more extreme than the party has ever considered, and I think it would be an electoral train wreck where the party would suffer significant losses and the Liberals would be re-elected, not on the basis of the merit of their government, but on positions that Pierre Poilievre has taken that would scare Canadians away. The fact that he recommended to Canadians to invest in Bitcoin and then saw it lose 60% of its value shows you he is illiterate when it comes to financial affairs. The fact that he said he would fight vaccines for childhood diseases like smallpox and polio and measles shows that he is reckless when it comes to science. His support for illegal blockades with the truckers' convoy and his association with people like Pat King, who have a track record of intolerance and hate, it would be a disaster for the branding of the party. And so what does this mean for the party? Myself, I believe other candidates in this race, we're also trying to build a modern, inclusive Conservative Party, but Pierre Poilievre is trying to replicate the politics of Ted Cruz or Donald Trump, and I don't believe it will work in Canada.
Do you think there is room in the Conservative Party for a social conservative? I mean, I assume you would call yourself a social conservative. Is there room in that party? Does that exist within the Conservative Party today? And who's running this party?
Well, I wouldn't call myself a social conservative. That's usually a label for those that are more, they hold more evangelical beliefs.
Sorry, I meant socially progressive,
yes,
a progressive
yeah,
conservative.
yeah,
Let me rephrase
yeah.
that, and you're right, I
Yes,
apologize.
I consider myself a progressive conservative. I support gay rights. I'm against hate against any religion. I believe we have to do our part on climate change. Yes, I'm a progressive conservative.
Is there room in the Conservative Party for a progressive conservative?
Well, I hope so. And by the fact that we are on the verge of winning this leadership, it shows that there is a willingness amongst Canadians for the path that I was articulating. But when you see backroom maneuvers like this to disqualify a candidate who has clearly shown such significant support, it really is an egregious intervention in an election.
So politicians, especially now in the day of social media, when a lot of things get fed out, it's really hard to come out from a scandal. You've done it once. Can you do it again? Because I'll be honest, a lot of people say there's a lot of nasty stuff swirling behind Patrick Brown. There have always been a lot of allegations, a lot of shadowy allegations. How do you overcome that, and can you overcome that?
Well, I don't think this is a scandal for myself. This is a scandal for the Conservative Party.
But many might see it as a scandal of Patrick Brown was alleged to do some shady things, and he's been yanked from the leadership race. Like, how do you overcome that kind of a scandal?
Well, because there's no information provided, no details, an anonymous allegation, right now, the only scandal is the Conservative Party intervening in an election. We had a large number of Canadians that wanted to participate in this election, who their vote, their democratic right to vote in a leadership for a national political party has been taken away from them, and that is a scandal that the party is going to have to account for.
So what's next?
Well, we're going to see what our options are and not rush to any decisions, but we're going to do our due diligence.
Ian Brodie. He's part of this committee that had the secret meeting last night. He was also Stephen Harper's former chief of staff. Some people are saying Stephen Harper has been maneuvering behind the scenes. Do you agree with that?
I don't believe conspiracy theories like that. I would say I think there was a lot of influence put on the leadership election committee by Pierre Poilievre's campaign, and that's unfortunate.
But why would they have so much power?
Well, this is the establishment choice, and Pierre Poilievre is the establishment choice. I don't think anyone questions that. It's been very clear with the endorsements he's had from the party apparatus.
Is the Conservative Party more interested about picking a leader like Pierre Poilievre versus winning the election? Like, do you think a Pierre Poilievre, and you've already mentioned this, but can he? We saw it with Aaron O'Toole. His leadership, he was more to the right, and then he maneuvered more to the center. Would Pierre Poilievre have to do that, and would Canadians overall buy that? And does the leadership care? Like, do they just want a certain stance within the party no matter what?
So I would say that I'm not sure that's what the party wants. Very clearly, I felt a lot of support around the country, not only the new members we signed up, but from grassroots Conservatives who said, finally, you're giving us a reasonable alternative. We had a great reception last night in Moncton where the local MLAs came out to support, saying this is someone who can win this seat for us. So I think the party wanted an inclusive, modern Conservative. I think the party establishment, though, clearly has other preferences.
Okay. Well, what's the timeline here? Do you have any sense of that?
No
yet?
timelines. We're going to do our due diligence and make a decision once we've done that.
But the clock is ticking. Yeah. I mean, you don't have a lot of time here.
Well, we're not going to rush to decisions. We're going to make sure we have all the information before us. This was obviously thrown at us late at night, and we're going to make the right decision, not rush into anyone.
Okay, Patrick Brown, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.